How's it going, everyone? It is Prashan here with Tucker, two of the homies here hanging out, talking about decks of the week. Welcome back, Tucker. Welcome back from your vacation.
Woo! It's good to be back. I'm glad you were able to have the homie Docty here. Some more power on representation. We love to see it. But it's good to be back. You know, I love doing these videos, and I know you guys love these videos too.
Yeah, for sure. So make sure you guys follow Tucker down below on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. We'll have all of his info down below. Yeah, shout out to Docty. He definitely filled in. Maybe we could get a three-headed monster one day, and we all could get on the channel and do something. So
I'm here for it.
let's talk about Professor X here. Professor X is dead, dead in the water.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird. So like unintentionally, Jeff kind of got hit at the same time because Jeff was the only card that could get into Professor X, but now other cards can move in there. And it's a little weird with like the Void now. The Void still moves over in
Hmm.
Professor X lanes, which is I don't know if that's exactly what they intended, but it's interesting. But I'm glad he's dead because he just annoyed me. The Ravona synergy and everything just
Right.
this was a feels bad.
Yeah, like him being a 5-2, no longer being able to be affected by Ravona. I think it's a lot of cause and effect in Marvel Snap. It's just
Mhm.
that Hela was going rampant, so like of course, how do you stop Hela? You stop one lane from being like for all the cards to proc in. That way you know you're winning one, and then you have Cannonball just to knock out whatever big card they have. So yeah, it's a sad day for Professor X and also Jeff too. Like Jeff is one of those innocent bystanders
Mhm.
of of this nerf. And then we also have another nerf. Speaking of Hela here, we do have Hela. Hela was also hit too. On reveal, resurrect all cards you discarded to random locations with -2 power. What do you think about this change?
So I haven't faced any Hella since the change. But like what people have told me is like, is the -2 power enough? Just Hella still just go more vertical. I think it kind of kills the Hella Tribunal interaction way more because Iron Man getting hit with -2 really hurts that way.
Mhm.
But if you look at like Husky Hella, more of a targeted Hella, I'm not entirely certain the -2 power is enough to limit that Hella from winning games.
Right. I don't think the -2 power, especially when you're discarding things like Infinite, Red Hulk,
Hmm.
Magneto, like that doesn't affect them that often. And then two with the Living Tribunal Helidex, do you just put Luke Cage in it? Because Luke Cage you could
Yeah.
play early enough in the game and you'll be fine. Especially if you're playing Tribunal. Like I don't think I think it's discouraged some
Hmm.
players from playing this deck. Like those who probably net deck or they like try to go for big power like or like just 1, 2, 3 on their turns. Maybe it discourages them, but I still think Hela is strong, and I think there'll be new decks that emerge with her in it that
Hmm.
that I don't know will be pretty good still.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think the Luke Cage into the Hella Tribunal isn't a horrible idea either, but it's like you're trying just to have so much big cards in there anyways. You're just literally playing Invisible Woman Modoc Hella. And it's like, okay, whatever comes down, comes down. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I don't even think you necessarily you just give away like you just don't play the Tribunal iteration anymore. You just play just the targeted discard and you still win.
Oh
Like
yeah, for sure. And then next we have another card that recently got buffed in this OTA. We have Mr. Gilgamesh here.
yeah, this is interesting. So, like, I was watching Regis's video yesterday, and I think at a 5-9 baseline is a really good card. Like, if you Gilgamesh didn't get any extra value and just stayed 5-9, that is a still solid 5 drop. But now with the ceiling a 5-20, it just is a feels good moment. And I think the list you were playing him in got better. It's more sustainable, kind of as a 5, even like 11 is better than a Doc Ock. Yes, Doc Ock has the clog function,
Mhm.
but more often than not, you lose when you play your Doc Ock and actually have instead of having the value for it. So I understand why Gilgamesh has risen more on the tiers, just with a 2 power buff, which is crazy for a season pass card a week after being released to get a change. I think maybe the last time it was in the same month was maybe Phoenix Force when
Yep.
Phoenix Force was a 5-6. I don't know if it was this next week, but I think that was the last time it was the same month it was a change.
Yeah, like when I first played this card, I felt like it was a little weak for a season pass card, especially since we had like bangers of season pass cards. We had Blink, Hope, like those were pretty good season pass cards, and Gilgamesh felt like lackluster compared to them. So it's good that they made the change right away. I don't think it's because they're trying to sell season passes. I just think it's just a weak card, and then it gets abandoned too, especially when you're playing Zoo and you were playing against Hela. Hela was still better than Gilgamesh, so I'm glad they did the change. And then speaking of tiers, we'll go over the tier list real quick. Gilgamesh is actually A tier right now, which is pretty interesting.
It's like literally 1 day post OTA. I think the main reason this, of course, is right after the OTA. So a lot of these stats are like 1 day in advance. But I think a lot of people started playing Gilgamesh and winning with Gilgamesh.
And this is for all Infinite players. It's not top 100 or top whatever. It's all Infinite players. Gilgamesh is A tier, which is pretty interesting because he was a card that was abandoned, and all of a sudden his stock has risen a lot. And then next in the B tier, we have a tons of decks in the B tier, which means the meta could be pretty healthy right now. We have Living Tribunal, Ongoing, Loki, Junk, Thanos, Baron Zemo, Negative, Galactus, and Hela are all B tier decks at the moment, which is pretty interesting to see. Like that means we have a good meta if we have this much variety.
Yeah, which like so like the Thanos meta, we hated the Thanos meta. But when we had Thanos meta, people were playing a lot of different decks. Whereas when we've had the Professor X Hela meta, you're playing 2 decks. So like I think it does sometimes stink to be in the Thanos meta, but that now with the way Thanos has been changed, I think it's even healthier for the game. You can kind of play whatever you want, and it's all about snapping and retreating, like min-maxing, which I mean, I get greedy sometimes. Some people, like, I think it's just learning that fundamental thing. Like, when you don't have your stuff, just get out of there. You don't got to play 6 turns. You don't have to. Just retreat, and that's like just going to help you overall.
Oh yeah. That's definitely the name of the game, especially since after you reach infinite and you progress or try to progress more down the ladder. 1 cube loss is sometimes a win compared to a cube loss and losing like 500 rank. So yeah, you have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And then we have C tier decks, which is Destroy, Discard, Patriot, and Ramp. And then our D tier is, I guess, what is this? Agatha is D tier, and then we have Sersi, which is D tier. What do you think about Sersi so far?
I think Sersi's a great card. I fundamentally, I think I've been watching like KX play, I've been watching Woody play, I've been watching a lot of these like top tier Snap players play, and they're taking out Annihilus and they're putting Sersi in. And it's because the flip with Sersi on like a lot of these cards, and it still works on the Professor X and everything too. It's like there is a downside of getting maybe a destroyer from a 5-drop with Sersi.
Yeah, that's happened to me.
But like but it's not that bad. Like, I feel like the changes you can get with Sersi, just knowing the game, knowing what cards you can get when you're playing a Sersi really helps. And I think it's kind of in a way of Valentina's situation. Like, with Valentina coming into your hand, you know, like, the card you get, you don't know if the 6-drop's going to be usable or not. But, like, more often than not, like, you're going to get good stuff. And it's just like we were saying earlier, you either snap or you retreat. Like, if you get bad thing, you're out of there. Maybe you're playing Sersi on 5 on curve. If you're playing her on 6, I mean, you're kind of really just rolling the dice. But she is a good card. And like the stat 5-7, like we were talking about Gilgamesh at a 5-9, but 5-7 with this ability, not having to have cards, you know, be buffed or anything, it's a feels good card.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've been playing her in like a Ramp Sandman deck, and I've been stealing wins. That's been my like Conquest deck. We'll get into it later, but yeah, Sersi, it's weird to see her be D tier. I just think that no one's figured out her place yet. That's the only thing. And then everyone's worried about RNG, which technically you don't have. Like, people still play Loki. Like, you don't know what you're going to get from the opponent, and Loki's still good. So we'll go over the Gilgamesh deck. Then, let's see here.
And to be fair, RNG, sometimes you don't draw your cards. Like that's just snap for you.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes you
for
draw your
sure.
cards and sometimes you don't.
For sure. We have this Gilgazoo. Talking about Gilgamesh. Here's the Gilgamesh deck we have here. And this is the top Gilgamesh deck according to Untapped right now.
Yeah, I was looking at this earlier, and I was thinking about doing something with it. So I couldn't find out who made this list. I just saw it was on Untapped, and it's like it's weird to say this, but is it kind of like a all stats zoo deck?
I would say
Kinda.
so. I think it's all stats plus there's some defense here a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the Shadow King. Yeah, he has high value. I think whoever made this was playing against a bunch of the like Angela Cannon, like that all that kid Angela Kitty stuff. So I think they were
Mm-hmm.
just playing Shadow King just to play Shadow King. Right. I think this deck is pretty good. I just think like sometimes people forget like not to fill their board too quick, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
happens with zoo decks sometimes. The board just gets like crowded, and you don't have enough space to do what you need to do the final turns.
And it's like throwing all your one drops out too early too just means you're gonna get killmongered. And that's just like the biggest counter to like this type of stuff would be like Surfer or Destroy because you're not running Kyera to protect your stuff. Enchantress really isn't an issue at the moment, but I think it's just people are playing more Sera control right now. And a nasty killmonger goes a long way.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then instead of Shadow King, you can always put in Kyera.
Yeah.
I would say like that's the offensive side of it, and then Shadow
Mhm.
King is the defensive side of it. I just think someone just put Shadow King because they were just sick of playing against the Angela Kitty stuff and
And it works
Thena.
against Black Knight now.
Oh yeah, it does. So yeah,
Mhm.
so high value there. And then the next deck we're gonna go over is Loki. Loki has crept back into the fold. Typical Loki deck. Well, it has Thena now, but I don't know, man. Loki has always stayed around. I think like top tier players, they
Mhm.
see Loki a lot, and they've been complaining about it. But the rest of the snap hasn't really been playing Loki that often. But it is creeping back up since the meta is wide open.
Yeah, and I think the thing is too, Thena's a great alternate line to Angela. Or if you have them both down, you really profit. But the main card that we don't talk about enough is Cable. Because Cable steals a good card potentially or a bad card potentially from your deck, and then it Loki's it away. So you may never know exactly what Cable stole from you. Because of the Loki value too, or your opponent is getting your combo card. So like if your opponent draws a great card with your Cable, they normally snap or they snap with a Quinjet interaction. But like Loki is a difficult deck to play because you kind of have to know how to play all sorts of other decks. And like I think I understand why people hate playing against Loki and stuff because people are like, oh, they just have the -1, cost and everything too. But like you have to genuinely know how to play Snap to be able to play Loki properly. You can't just throw Loki down on the board and just be like, oh, I'm just gonna be able to do whatever I want. Like you have to know kind of the combos and matchups and stuff going into it.
Right, especially if you're playing against Loki, like you're setting up your combos way earlier than they are.
Mm-hmm.
So typically you can beat them if you have the right combo, but the problem
Yep.
with Loki decks, or this one especially, like Tucker was saying, Angela and Thena have a lot of value, so they could get a lot of power on the board. That way, they could beat whatever setup you've been setting
Mm-hmm.
up. They're going toe to toe with it, and like the icing on the cake is Loki. And then of course you have Shang-Chi to take down anything tall because we haven't really seen Shang-Chi a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he might be back, especially since Cannonball is pretty much dead in the water right now.
Yeah, no, I think like Sarah Control, it's gonna be a lot of Shadow King, Shang-Chi, and Killmonger for the meta for at least the rest of the month.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then speaking of Sarah Control, now the sneaky Sarah deck, which
Oh, that Gladiator's so clean.
oh yeah. Like I think this has stolen so many wins and 8 cubers for me, where someone like had no clue what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I like hid Shadow King and I hid Killmonger behind Invisible Woman, and I just steal cubes. You can also hide Maximus behind not Wonder Woman, Invisible Woman. You can hide
Mm-hmm.
Maximus behind Invisible Woman, and I like play Ronin on 5,
Mm-hmm.
which has tons of value too. You have Nocturne here just to change location, just in case you get a bad matchup or a bad location, or if they play like a Magic or something. One card I haven't seen in a while is Storm. Like
Yep.
Storm is like non-existent. And then of course you have value at Sera, and then Gladiator is one of the best 3 drops in the game, as well as Red Guardian. And then of course too Mobius, because there's a lot of Ravonna running around. And then it messes up destroy decks too. That way they don't get their death.
Yeah, no, this list is really clean, and I think especially if people stop playing Hela with the -2 thing to Hela, Gladiator gets obscenely more value. The Sera interaction allowing you to play Maximus, Shadow King, and Ronin all on turn 6 is pretty crazy. And then Red Guardian is also really solid right now because in a lot of these matchups, like if we are facing a Loki, it can hit a Quinjet, it can hit a Athena, or it could hit like an Angela and stuff. Another great card just to have. Not a card that everyone was super like you have to have Red Guardian last season, but the more you play Red Guardian, the more you understand the tech you need with it and how good it is overall. This list is super solid, and I like that it's not just tech cards. I mean, it is mostly tech, but I like that he has Ronin in here, which is a card you don't see as often, but maybe with Super Giant, people have been playing a lot more of. But I think I like the sneakiness with the Invisible Woman in this a lot.
Right. And then if you don't have Red Guardian, you can always go like Rogue,
Mm-hmm.
Enchantress, Shang-Chi, just in case, if you want to go that route. And let's see here. What do we have next here? We have some Sersi Ramp. This is what I've been playing. There's many different iterations of this deck, but this is the Sersi deck that I've been having tons of fun with in Conquest. I've been just stealing cubes, especially when they're playing those Angela Kitty decks and they want to play with Athena and they want to play 2 cards. If you play that Sandman on turn 5, it just disrupts whatever they're doing, and then like they automatically retreat. And then you have tons of value with Blink here, and then Sersi too, with the randomness too. Like typically I want to Sersi my Electro, or I want to Blink my Electro. That way I can keep that ramp, and I'm not limited to 1 card. And of course Jeff here, when you do have Electro out, you could play Jeff and another card with Electro out. So yeah.
No, I like this list. I like where your head's at it with everything too. I think Electro we haven't seen a lot of recently because people have been playing more Hope. But I think we're in a spot now where Ramp can actually be really successful, especially with Loki on the rise. You definitely get a lot more value with Sandman. There was a couple weeks earlier when there was a lot of Patriot, Ultron kind of stuff, so that's where Sandman kind of was down in the dumps. But now, since people are kind of branching out and playing so many cards and stuff, I think you can totally ramp out a Sandman right now. Even with Red Hulk even being touched in the OTA, instead of getting +4, getting +3, he can still get pretty vertical. I mean, there's a lot of chances for your opponent to skip, turns or just float energy. So I think this is a very solid list.
Yeah. Like, well, the reason why there's Electro instead of Hope is
Mm-hmm.
just in case I use Sersi, I just don't want to be bound to a certain location just to get more energy. So that's why Electro and Wave are in here. That way we could be like more versatile in our locations and spread our power.
And I like that more than the Hope. I think with Ramp, the Blink and Sersi value with Electro is incredible because Electro turning into a lot of these 4-drops is actually solid. The worst one you could hit maybe would be like a Mr. Negative, but like other than that, that's 1 out of like what 20 at least different 4-drops.
And then Jubilee has a lot of value too with Blink and Sersi, so it's tons of ways you can win with this deck.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
And then next here we have the One Piece. This one is freaking amazing. I think it's so good. It's actually like the auto deck. A lot of people are saying this is the auto deck with Namora.
Oh, awesome.
And
I think it's really cool. So like you did a video with Safety Blade on this and had the homie. And it's like a new take of a very feels good pool 2 deck,
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's so much different value, and I think Sage is arguably one of the best cards from last season. Maybe she is the best card from last season, just holistically the way you can plug and chug her. But no, I think this is a feels good moment. White Tiger already was a slept on card with Ravonna, which people weren't playing enough of. And I think the Iron Lad hits anything in this list is just fantastic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like even like turn 4, I sometimes like I'll guess and hit
Mhm.
like play Iron Lad and it's still a good hit no matter what. And White Tiger does have tons of value. Even
Mhm.
back in the day when I was playing like discard with Silver Samurai, Silver
Mhm.
Samurai would always hit White Tiger or Jubilee, and then I would play Hela, and then I'll bring back White Tiger and Jubilee final turn,
Mhm.
and like it's just a surprise card. And especially with Odin and Wong value with White Tiger, it's pretty awesome. You don't have to use Namora. You don't have to
Mhm.
make the obvious play with Namora. And then as well too, Safety was saying you don't have to wait until the final turn to play Ironheart. You could play Ironheart on curve if you want, because you
Yeah.
could always get that value back by playing Wong and Odin on top of her later.
Mhm.
And then of course with Echo here, there was tons of ongoing going on, so that sort of deters them, and you force them into different lanes to play their ongoing. And then
Mhm.
Rogue has a ton of value because you just put Echo in one lane, Rogue them in another lane, and typically they retreat. And yeah, tons of value, especially Nocturne too, just changing locations.
The Echo protects you from Cosmo on your Wong lane, which also is incredible.
Yes, or if they try to rogue you.
Yeah.
So pretty awesome deck here. I think that's it. What else do we have here? I think that's it this week.
Yeah, I think we were like 5 or 6 and done. Yeah.
Yeah, that is it this week. Anything else you have to say to the people out there, Tucker?
I would say I think this OTA was really healthy for the game. I hope we continue to get some great healthy updates and stuff too, because I feel like a lot of people are getting burnt out. I was getting a little burnt out myself, but I feel like this has kind of rejuvenated the game in a bit. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for Snap. I hope this Deadpool Diner thing coming out is going to be freaking
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm excited.
yeah. The thing is with Snap right now, it's just that we need more game modes. Typically, we
Hmm.
reach infinite in the first few days, and then we're grinding out conquest just to get a variant in the last few days. I just think we need more filler in between, and I think everyone will be happy. I think the game is good. It's just
Hmm.
that a lot of us are getting bored because it's just infinite, waiting for new card, new card, new card, then grind conquest. So
Yeah.
it's good to see that they're coming out with something new. So that is it for us. Till next time, just make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys are playing. And till next time, guys, be safe, keep on snapping, and peace.
Snap.